Hey, what's going on, my friends, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor, and today I'm going to share with you 5 things I think you should know about this powerful new moon happening December 12th, 2023. As you may have seen in the thumbnail there, I put major vibe shift. What I mean by that is exactly as it sounds. I can expect for you, I know for me, it's not been the easiest year. There's been a tremendous amount of growth, challenges, change, and it's been very fast-paced, a lot going on, not always easy, not always smooth. But I don't know about you, but when I'm going through those difficult times, those dark nights of the soul, you could say, I always have this sense that it's part of something very worthwhile and positive, that the challenges are connected to, like heads and tails to a coin, to this worthwhile upliftment, improvement, elevation to my frequency, to my mood, my happiness, and just my entire life. And December is going to be a good reflection of that. In particular, this new moon is bringing in good vibes. There's a lot of positive things I'm going to be sharing with you in the next few minutes here as I break down the 5 different themes. But rest assured, just as I would expect your own intuition has been telling you, the effort you put in will be reciprocated. There will be good things to come as a result of your hard work, my friend. So what I'll do now, as I always do, is I'll break this down now more into 5 more specific themes, and I hope you enjoy the video, and I'll see you inside. Number 1, major vibe shift. It's interesting that this correlates with, well, a lot of people celebrate Christmas, the holiday season, for most of us, not all of you, depending on what you are into. But for me, the holiday season is a time when I put a lot more thought into other people than myself. For example, my Aunt Carol, she had a stroke a few years ago, and she's okay, she's alive, but she can't really speak or communicate. She's been in a wheelchair for a while. It didn't even look good, like she would live, and she needs to be taken care of at all times. But anyway, so she lives kind of like this very inactive life, and she gets depressed sometimes, as you can imagine. But what I do from over here from Texas, she lives in Philadelphia, is I'll sometimes send her these like video, like vlogs of my family and the kids. And this morning, anyway, I wrote her this nice letter and put in some photos, and I made her like a nice PDF file of an update. And it took me about a half hour, not a big deal. But doing that, and every other time I've done something for her, puts me in, I don't know how to explain it, but a state of being, a vibe of just real joy, real happiness, deep satisfaction and contentment. And I'm learning the more we give, the better we feel, the more we get. And right now, you might find your own vibe shift happening because you're starting to focus less on yourself and your own wants and what you could do for other people. Maybe you're considering your purpose and what you can offer. I know as a business coach, one of the main things that gets in the way of people finding their purpose and succeeding in business is thinking too much of what they want. I want to make money. I want to do this. I always invite them to sort of shift that and say, how can I serve? How can I help people? What do I got? Talents, experience, knowledge, wisdom, etc., that I could offer in a way that would be very helpful to other people and to the whole. And that mindset usually breeds success and expansion and purpose and all the beautiful qualities that come along with it, the happiness, the joy, the wholeness, the contentment. So I don't believe this vibe shift is necessarily only because of the astrology, even though this is in Sagittarius and there are different alignments I read about that does sort of invite this type of energy in. I believe the degree in which your vibe shift happens will be the degree in which you can focus on other and not so much on yourself. Number 2, you also might be feeling groovy because you're finally realizing that the only thing that's been holding you back from the things you've been wanting to do is yourself, is your fear. But it's so tricky. I've been reading this book by Carl Jung about the symbolism and the unconscious, the collective unconscious, basically. And it's kind of difficult to talk about because it's so vast. But essentially what he really believes, and I found this to be true for myself, is that we all have this sort of unconscious aspect of our brain, of our psyche, that majorly influences us. And a lot of times these choices we make in life are largely influenced by unexamined aspects of our shadow, of our unconscious. So there may have been things that you've been going back and forth with. On one hand, it would be really awesome and exciting to do this thing, to pursue this passion, this dream. The other hand, it produces so many feelings of uncertainty and doubt and maybe unworthiness that you find it every time you want to go for it, it's difficult. It's to where this awesome thing is associated with these unconscious elements, and therefore it's like we shy away from our dream. We keep it at bay because it triggers up these feelings. And this new moon very well might be very illuminating in that regard. And once you kind of see, and what I'm kind of meant to say as well is sometimes these unconscious influences will manifest in mental justifications why we shouldn't do what we want to do. We rationalize the feelings. And therefore we truly believe that we're not meant to do this thing. We're not worthy to do this thing. It's not the right time to do this thing. But this new moon might start to help you see that maybe the only thing that's been holding you back this entire time are those unconscious elements, those parts of your shadow, which are not founded on truth and fear, essentially. And just seeing that what's been stopping you is like this thin, smoky layer of fear that you could easily walk through whenever you want. There's nothing that's been actually holding you down. You might find yourself going for it in your own way. You might already find yourself doing this now, not just in the future during the moon. You might find that you are starting to break through and go forward with things you've been wanting to do this entire time, and that feels amazing. I've been wanting to do, as an example, this this coaching program, basically. But I'm at a place now in my business, with my own personal business, Awakening Help, this YouTube channel essentially, where I'm not really pulling the numbers I'm used to pulling, and I haven't really been putting much energy into the business aspect. And therefore, I've been afraid to launch this new program that it's not going to do well. People aren't going to want it. And I just finally woke up to that recently, that the only thing that's been stopping me from doing something I've been toying around with in my brain for a long time, probably a year or more, it's this unexamined fear. And all I need to do it is courage. And I've been doing it. I've been building it and having such a blast. I cannot wait to share it with you for those interested. But regardless, I'm feeling amazing, so I'm finally going for it. Are you going for it? Are you letting fear hold you back? Take a look. Take another look. You might see that this fear has absolutely no grounding whatsoever in reality, in truth, in logic. And you may find also, as I have found, that this fear is not as formidable or big as it seems. It's like smoke and mirrors, and we can walk through that doorway anytime we please. Point number 3, also very much related to point number 2 in a very different way. I wrote down leaning into your feminine side. Now, this has nothing to do with male, female, men, woman. I'm talking about the feminine, the more intuitive, the more flowy, the more those terms basically, side of yourself. I know for me, as an example, this program I've been talking about, one of the main also reasons why I've been struggling is because I've been trying to impose too much structure. I've been wanting and insisting to know, what is it going to look like? How is it going to work exactly? I need to know all the details of the roadmap. And in doing so, in imposing too much of this masculine structure, it's completely sucked all of the soul out of it. It's cut me off from the downloads, the inspiration, the potential effortlessness of this endeavor that I could experience if I was to kind of let go a little bit, trust a little more, and simply go with the flow. So you might find yourself realizing the same thing. You might find that not that we need to put an end to the masculine side of things forever, but I think it's been quite leaning to the masculine side for quite some time in this chaotic world we live in. Is kind of an example of Now, it's not the only way to go about things. And a lot of people would benefit from really dropping more into their intuition and kind of reconnecting with just the earth, with nature itself, which has its own intelligence. It has its own guiding influences that most people are completely unaware of, essentially. But you might be finding through the experiences of like I was having, where insisting on knowing the details and forcing things into reality is becoming so obvious that this is just not working. It's becoming so energetically dissonant. It's just not effective either. And it's making us miserable. It's exhausting us. It's creating imbalance in our lives. So you might be getting that message, my friend. And if you are, then give it a whirl. It's been working beautifully for me. Just lean into your feminine side. Do what feels right in the moment with your creative projects, especially. This program I keep talking about is coming together in such an amazing, it's so much better than I really even could have planned. And it's happening very effortlessly. Even though I do get to these points where like I don't know what to do next and there's like a sticking point, rather than like ruminate about it or try to force things or desperately attempt different options to just, because I decided I need to move forward today, I kind of like accept it. I sit with it. And as I kind of don't bring too much of my own will to the equation, the right option, the right path always seems to unfold for me at like the perfect timing, the perfect time of day. And everything is working so smoothly. I've never built anything within my business so easily and with so much joy, and also so quickly by leaning in to this feminine side. So how could you do that? What's showing up in your life right now that's reflecting to you that you're trying to control too much? You're holding on too tightly. Where are you holding on too tightly? Insisting too much, needing too much, desiring too much. You might have to just let it go completely for a little while and go back into your intuitive side. That's what I had to do. I had to let go of the project completely and almost come to terms with the fact that I might not even do this thing. And once I finally let go, it's almost like I opened up my antenna or something, and the creative juices and the intuition and all this support has returned in a very big and noticeable way. And I hope for your sake you can experience something like that too, because it's just been so game-changing for me. Number 4, you also might find that you have a desire to explore in some way, to go and visit maybe a new place, to go on a vacation, to travel, to experience different types of people, different cultures, different vibrations, if you will. And a lot of times we don't do that because it costs money and we got to take time off of work and things like that. But man, I can't tell you how much I've learned and how valuable the expansion of my perspective on reality and life has been from visiting other places. I grew up in Michigan, and for the longest time, I never went anywhere besides Michigan. And when I went to my spiritual awakening, I had this like belief that no one is ever going to understand me. I'm not going to have friends because nobody in my like little circle, little bubble, thought like, I didn't feel comfortable talking about what I was going through with them. I didn't think they would get it. And I assumed that everywhere must be like that. And then I also had this itch to explore, and we bought an RV and we traveled around, and I was so quickly just shown that just how different places are. How like different states, for example, have like vastly different temperaments of people, psychologies, values, cultures, attitudes. And it's like if you drive throughout the country, just the United States, state to state to state, it's completely different. City to city, it's completely different. There was this one time back in 2011, and I was really anticipating, I don't know if you guys were, but like 11/11 basically is what it was. And there was all these like different channelers and mediums and people saying 11/11 is going to be this crazy portal date or whatever. And I was so excited. And at that time, I had just began traveling and was like kind of exploring around, you could say, South Florida. And I was so I was waiting for like the gates of heaven to open up and rain down positive energy onto the planet. So I went to the beach to meditate, to be receptive to this 11-11-11 portal. And as you may have experienced, nothing really happened. I just sat there. No one noticed anything. I didn't notice anything. And I kind of left the beach feeling quite a bit disappointed. And anyway, I got my wife came and picked me up, and we were driving around. And I noticed this like sign in like my peripheral, and it said psychic. And I had this strong intuition to like, go to it, go there. So I was like, babe, we got to turn. She was driving at the time. We got to turn around the car and go check out this place. And I went into this place, like wondering why I felt so strongly pulled to go there. And I'll never forget the look in the different people's eyes that worked there. For the first time, aside from my wife, I could see in the eyes of these people that worked at this little psychic shop in South Florida. I think it was Naples. They had, like, there were people I knew for a fact that I would like be able to get along with. People that like were on my, like, saw the world the way I did. And it was just this huge, it was small and nothing big happened obviously, but it was a huge demonstration that there are other people like you out there in the world, even though you'd never thought that was the case. And it just opened up a whole world of possibilities for me, of like even like the notion that I could have friends again, friends that I really connect with and vibe with. I could have people in my life that I can really go deep with and let my guard down and just be my true, crazy sometimes self with. So anyway, none of that would be possible had I not scratched that travel itch that became quite itchy at different times in my life. So regardless, and also just to say, I almost never ever read about astrology. I don't know anything about astrology, believe it or not. These are intuitive updates that normally correlate with the astrology anyways. But on this particular point, I did read. I was curious, and it did also say, I forgot why, but the desire to explore and travel was also kind of confirmed astrologically from this one article I read, for what that's worth. And number 5, my friend, similar to point number 3, but here's a much more expanded version of it, going with the flow. Not just with your creative endeavors. I'm talking with life, with your moment to moment walking through your day, your week, your life. You might also find that you've been imposing too much structure on just what you should do on any given day. And what I'm finding is by completely letting go and trusting more, the right thing to do in each moment is usually quite obvious. However, oftentimes it will conflict with what I assumed I would be doing. An example is just the other night, my wife and I, we went out to celebrate our 15-year anniversary. We went to a nice dinner, and we went to this Italian dinner here in Austin. And we feasted like we have not feasted in a long time. And this initially was met, at least for the first few minutes, with quite a bit of resistance. Because about 3 or 4 months ago, I really changed my diet and started eating very, very clean, nutritious foods and became very kind of sensitive, you could say, to unhealthy foods. So coming in, I was almost like apprehensive to just dive in. But we were sat in this perfect table with this gorgeous, like, we were overlooking this wine vineyard, and the sun was setting, and it was so beautiful and so reminiscent of many, many, many other dates Patty and I would go on. We really love eating out. I'll say we love food. And for a while, we've been kind of resisting eating fun foods. And it just felt so appropriate to get a glass of wine and to just freaking go ham in this Italian restaurant. And we did. We ate so much. We got this, and then we finally capped it off with this massive like pecan pie dessert. And we were so stuffed. And still, we had an amazing time. I actually woke up the next day feeling great because at that exact time of my life, that type of meal was appropriate. It's not always appropriate, obviously, but in that case, it was. And that's just an example of a new way I've been personally walking through life with, you could say, the last few weeks anyways. Really questioning my assumptions. Because so often we do something that works for us and we just assume this is how it's done in this sort of black and white manner. not really realizing that the only reason this thing worked is because of the particular circumstance. It's like, again, going back to that book I'm reading by Carl Jung about dream interpretation. The one thing this guy says, like many times within the dream, is that there really is almost like you should run away from anybody who thinks they can interpret your dream without really knowing you. He says there are these archetypal, somewhat universal symbols, but the symbols themselves carry so much depth of meaning and are so contextual per the individual that it takes quite a bit of time to really understand what these symbols mean in this particular dream for this particular individual. So for us, it's kind of almost like a knock at how much we've been leaning towards this like logic and reason at the expense, almost like in the almost ignoring just the vast depth of what we don't know about life. I don't even know if that made sense, but the point is, like, in going with the flow more and sort of releasing the grip of our mind, of our assumptions, then it's becoming a lot easier, at least for me, and I'm curious if you as well, a lot easier to see, like, what's the move to make now? It might be exactly the same thing as I did yesterday, or it might be completely different. It might repeat itself for the next 3 weeks and then just stop suddenly, or it might go on for 6 years. Either way, we don't have to know. We don't have to like accumulate this sort of knowledge of here's what I do in this circumstance. Here's how I eat. Here's how I work out. Here's how I do business. Here's what I do. Here's where I live. It's like we waste so much, at least me, I wasted so much time with too much mental activity. And now I'm finally waking up to the fact that I could literally chill out and allow life to be freaking obvious as hell. It can be obvious. And in this obviousness, I'm finding that life is sort of granting me all of my preferences as I, like, almost like life can take you for a ride and show you how awesome it can be. Like, let it unfold. Let life deliver to you what you really want. But the problem is, it's going to come for most of us in ways that are very contradictory to how we think things ought to go. And it's kind of like a retraining our brains to go through life in a totally different way. But for what it's worth, I believe this new moon is supporting such a mode of operation, and you might benefit from it as well. And finally, to just say, I know what I sort of laid out are a lot of very positive things, and I'm not saying that's not true, but within that, because it's a new moon, because it's powerful, you might have some healing, you might have some experiences of going into your shadow and things like that, some awarenesses of how you tick, and that can not be so positive. I'm not saying it's going to be this hunky-dory experience, but you might find that you're still going to be learning about yourself along the way, but that's okay too. You can also go with the flow with that, trusting that whatever life is bringing to you, whether it be a new level of something you've been working hard for, a moment of joy with friends and family, or taking you into your shadow once more to say, hey, there's this you've been doing, there's this pattern you've been carrying out. That's okay. It happened to me just last night. I was watching the show Yellowstone, which is an amazing show, by the way. And I found myself getting very irritated by this particular character. It's this woman, this younger, very beautiful woman who's the wife of this really nice guy named Casey. And she's always mad at him. She's always like dogging on him, always making him feel bad. And he's just this really nice guy, just trying to do his best for his family. And then I asked myself last night, like, why are you so upset with this woman? Why does she bug you so much? And it was like, oh God, I know exactly why. Because I see some of myself in her. Granted, she's a much more extreme version, but I, in the past especially, had the tendency to be like that. And I feel yucky about it, but I would, like a child, I would guilt trip my wife. I would I had this insecurity and stuff. Luckily, it's been fading over the years. I don't do that anymore for the most part. But anyway, that was kind of a tough pill to swallow. Like, oh, wow, you don't like her because she's exactly how you once used to be. And that was a moment of uncomfortability. Like, oh, yuck, this is true. I knew it was true. But that's okay too. Maybe you're having your own wake-up calls. Maybe life is showing you some of maybe the results of your unconsciousness. And it's never fun to look at. And it's so easy to repress that or to justify and rationalize, oh, I'm not like her, here's why. And to like become defensive against this awareness of what really is, especially when it comes to like who you are and what you're all about. But I find the people that can really look at themselves, and I mean really, not just, a lot of people think they look at themselves or look at themselves in certain circumstances, but I'm talking the people that really look at what life is showing them, whatever it is, are the ones that are like on this exponential path of growth and expansion and living increasingly better and better and better lives. And now is also an opportunity to do that if life wants to show you something along those lines. And if that is the case, if that is something that's happening with you right now, and you're kind of going into your shadow quite a bit, I'm going to share with you a free breathwork ceremony that I've done a million times. It's somatic release breathwork. It's for free. I'll leave a link down below. It'll help you get to the root of what you're wrestling with. It'll help you become aware of where this shadowy aspect is coming from, how it got there, and most importantly, it will give you an opportunity to release it in a very real way. Whether you shed tears or yell or vibrate, you can get to the root of some of these energies that you've been dragging behind you. It's something I've done. Normally I charge money for it. It's free for now. Happy holidays, my friend. I'll leave a link down below. And with that said, you have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you soon. Much love.